Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this video I will be discussing the energy source from which you can create a nuclear fusion. In order to create a nuclear fusion, you need to have a constant pulse from negative to positive, positive to negative, creating the circuit. Which means in order to create this particular fusion, you would have to feed it energy, also known as electricity. And in this constant fusion of energy, in order to sustain a fusion able to power not just one country such as Canada, we could imagine, but enough energy that we could power the entire world off of this fusion. It could revolutionize the future. However, it is also extremely expensive. You see, in the talks of the going into electricity, as discussed by Canada, well, the best bet in order to do so would not be in order to essentially create new electrical pathways, but to simply go nuclear, which is the talks, that is the exchange between the Liberal government and the Alberta government. Because where exactly is this nuclear reactor going to be built? In Alberta. By 2035, the Canadian government hopes to no longer have gas vehicles and diesel vehicles upon the Canadian nation. And then the idea is they want to essentially by then have a stable nuclear fusion that we can actively power all of Canada, and if not, the entire planet from. Now, in terms of the math, well, you can't just run the circuit off of the grid, because if you do that, if there's a malfunction in the circuit, there's a malfunction in the fusion, resulting in a collapse and a re-expansion within said black hole of the collapsed fusion point. So you would have to create batteries to store the energy first, and from the storing of energy, you could then relay the stored energy in a continuous pull and exit. These batteries, as Daniel Smith has done the math in Alberta, for these batteries to take place and to hold that much energy, in order to maintain said fusion point, it would cost approximately $1 billion per hour, $24 billion per day. And the number increases. Now, is that sounding like a renewable energy at this point? Excuse me. The dog's going crazy. Anyways, as I was saying, from this energy point, we would find that the overall bill of this wouldn't be fronted by Canada, first of all. It would be fronted by the Albertan government, which I don't know about how much money the rest of Canada thinks we're just magically going to create, especially now that our economy is not necessarily the greatest under its Liberal rule, which has been shutting down our ability to create wealth within the energy sector currently. As I've stated in such a video such as gas versus diesel video upon my YouTube page, I discuss how you can actively create clean running diesel with zero emissions simply by using salt water, that which in the combustion part of the ignition, these saltwater elements stabilize the emission of the diesel emission, resulting in carbon monoxide turning into carbon hydroxide, or the other way around, one of the two. However, in this particular statement, you would actually find that using salt water, you could find and create clean running diesel with zero emissions, meaning there's zero pollution. It turns it into carbon monoxide, regular breathing air. But the negative sulfur aspect of things that is emitted, which is that black condensed smoke, if I'm not mistaken. This particular gas form, which is emitted, takes on a black condensed smoke. Whereas if you neutralize this particular point with salt water, there are elements in salt water, which I've stated in the video of the gas versus diesel up on my YouTube page. You can actively create a zero emissions diesel rather by combusting it with air oxygen, but with water oxygen. The moment you add two hydrogen atoms to the oxygen as you combust the diesel component, results in a neutralizing, which means zero emissions. And from here we could actively see we could create more and more powerful ways we could continue utilizing this system for now in the meantime as we develop a cleaner running system. Now, the options have been laid out as a Canadian government. What do you think is the right way to proceed about this? Because we could alternately, rather than pursuing nuclear fusion, which could be a bit longer, and if we try to speed up the process of fine-tuning this, well, we might find we don't take enough time to develop it. And you can't just give a nuclear fusion a deadline, especially at the point at which we're expected to have it within less than 9 years. It needs to be a refined element of sorts, if you wish, which in order to create such fusion needs to be just as pure as the purest form of carbon, a diamond, which under compressed enough state, carbon takes on a hardened state, as an example, a diamond. That's how perfect you want that fusion to be, a perfect state of its element. However, the current question arises at which element within the periodic table can sustain a nuclear fusion without essentially going wrong. Because some elements can maintain said combustion of the fusion for a certain amount of time, but they are not meant to be used in other forces. Some elements work better than others. Some might have to be combined. But in the purest form, we must find now what is the element that can maintain a perfect nuclear fusion. Thank you.